The Tony Gebhardt Show. Music, motivation, and positively obnoxious. Music, motivation, and positively obnoxious indeed. This is Tony Gebhardt, and welcome to the Tony Gebhardt Show, a platform to provide inspirational stories and motivation from individuals within the disabled community. Season 1 is all about the blind, and we're focusing on spotlighting individuals such as Scott MacIntyre, who you will be able to hear in just a little bit. It's so amazing just to have him on the show. He's a personal friend, such an honor to work alongside him, and it's so many different things. I mean, we talk quite a bit about just his story, what he's been able to accomplish. American Idol's Scott MacIntyre. Be sure to check out scottmacintyre.com. Listen to his new rap collaboration, Believe Again, which is now available on Spotify. Spotify is his platform of choice that he puts a lot of his energy in, so please catch that. In addition to that, Enduring Hope, the TV special and podcast that he does with his wife, Christina. And they have been married over 10 years now. Yes, 10 years. They celebrated their 10-year anniversary in 2021. Huge celebration there. And I want to thank everyone who has been tuning in as of late and giving some of the podcasts some love and finding refuge in some of these stories and messages. It makes me feel really grateful, very, very much so, that this can serve that purpose for you. If you like what you're hearing, please leave a review and a rating on Apple and Spotify, and share it with your friends if you feel as though that season 1 of the show and the show in general will be able to give you that kind of solace. Let's hear a quick ad, and we're going to get right to the podcast.
Are you tired of the same old music on your commute? Want to be informed and entertained at the same time? Introducing Anchor, the easiest way to create and distribute your own podcast. With Anchor, you can record and edit your audio straight from your phone and share it with the world in just a few taps. And with Anchor's built-in tools, you can add music and sound effects, collaborate with friends and co-hosts, and even monetize your podcast with sponsored messages. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a first-time podcaster, Anchor makes it easy to share your voice and stories with the world. Download Anchor now and start podcasting today.
Hey, this is Tony Gebhardt with the TG Show, episode number 7, and I'm here with a good friend and mentor of mine, American Idol Scott MacIntyre. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the kind words, Tony. It's a true blessing to be here with you. I'm excited.
Likewise, and it feels just like yesterday. I was leaving the Phoenix airport, went from the song site retreat, and just so many good memories. And as a kid, I can remember seeing you on American Idol. I must have been 11 or 12 years old at the time, and I was like, this guy, he's got charisma like all throughout his body. No, he doesn't have an arrogant bone to be seen.
Oh man, so that's a new. I got to remember, charisma is now the antithesis of pride or something. Right?
It's true, but I'm just looking at your bio and getting to know you personally. You have a story, my friend, not just of successes, but you've got a couple of tribulations in there. And I know there's a lot of people who benefit really from the aspect of empathy, especially through faith and just the living proof of God's work and his miracles. And with that, without saying too much, because I'm a talker, I want to give you a floor to kind of just give us an overview of what was it like going into American Idol? I mean, because that was really the beginning, wasn't it? Of a lot of this.
It was, yeah. I always had a passion for music from a very early age, and I dreamed about what it would be like to tour in arenas someday and do, make music that people would listen to, more than my friends or whatever you have, your family. And I didn't know how that would that would happen, but I couldn't deny that I just had this deep seated belief that it was possible. And I think that's when you think about reaching for your dreams and what God places on our hearts, first we do have to filter that through, is this something that's glorifying to God, right? But he does give each of us unique talents and skills, and things, and those are not meant to just be kept for ourselves. They're meant to be shared. And so I always wanted to do that. I never knew American Idol would be the vehicle that made that happen. But people started asking me about it and saying, "Oh, if you do it, we'll vote for you."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I did.
Absolutely.
And in case anyone's wondering, they do listen to everyone. It's a little bit different nowadays, but back then it was this huge cattle call type audition, and
Yeah.
just this tens of thousands of people would audition, but they would listen to everyone. And this is a kind of a funny story. I auditioned in San Francisco first and got turned down, but then a couple months later they were coming to Scottsdale or Phoenix, and I auditioned again, and they said yes, and they said yes again and
Hey,
yes again. And so just a little testament there,
were
to
you really nervous around that time? Were you just thinking there's no way I'm going to go to Hollywood?
well, I didn't think there's no way I was going to go to Hollywood. I was pretty I believed in myself, man.
And that's good. Amen
But
to that. Yeah.
but yes, I was nervous. I don't think I was ever completely comfortable on American Idol, especially like when I got to the later rounds. Like it's just, when I did the American Idol tour, which the top 10 get to do, or they got to do back in the day. I don't know if they're still doing the tour, but that was kind of the goal, and that ended up being the most fun part because there were no more judges, as
Right.
great as they are. um there was no more, kind of, you get to sing for 30 seconds and then you're done. It felt like on the show, by the time you get into the song, it's over. And it's such a short window. It's live TV. So, I mean, there was one time, man, where I was at the piano, getting ready for them to come back from commercial break, and my monitor was not working.
Oh no.
And they were already counting down, like from 10 until they came back. And I couldn't see anything that was happening, but apparently I learned later that like a swarm of tech people, like 15 people, all swooped out, and they each went to a different spot on the piano. They already had rehearsed this, and they every pair of them checked a different set of
Wow.
wires and the thing, and they got it
Wow.
working
The
by like
Goon
two,
Squad, man.
1, 0. And then it was working, and like, so it was just never like, I think the whole one of the secret tests of American Idol is, can you do this under unideal circumstances,
Under pressure. Yeah.
under pressure, while you're sick. I think we
Yeah.
all got that was the H1N1 thing back then.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh
there
yeah.
there
Swine
was a week
flu.
where everyone was sick, and it's just like, if you can do it here, then we know you can do it out there. So let's make it a little bit hard and see what happens.
So you mentioned, with the tour being a little bit more laid back and not as strenuous. It sounds like there was more camaraderie. Like you could get to know everyone and be more of yourself without the pressure of, live television.
Absolutely. And that's also, you'll realize, like, the place where we got to meet the people that had voted for us and that had made this possible, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So no longer was it, just trying to connect with people who are out there, but it's through a television camera and a television.
Sure.
um but you're actually able to hear. For me, that was big, being able to hear the people that were supporting you and be able to shake their hand and meet them, um and make music together. And I think that's what everyone was aiming for. So when we made that top 10 cutoff, that was a big deal for me, just because I knew that from that point it was just, whatever happened was just icing on the cake, because
Sure.
I was going to get to go out and do what I came for.
Sure. Who was it that won that year? Was that David Cook?
No, he was the year before, and but close. That was the David year, the year before, and I was watching that. I was
Yeah.
up in Canada at the time, on a trip, on a little mini tour, and yeah, watched that finale. And then sure enough, next year I was on it. But my season, it was Chris Allen that won.
Okay.
Yeah. And
It's so
so,
funny. So like a side story. I remember when Ryan Seacrest was like, the winner of American Idol 2008 series is, or whatever year it was, and all
yeah.
he said was David, and everyone was like, oh,
I know, that's so funny. I remember
oh,
that being a big media story. Like,
it
oh, everyone
was.
said they should have set their DVRs to, that's probably the reason that DVRs automatically go for 2 extra minutes now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's just so cool, man. And I mean, and now we're in 2023, and this was what, 14 years ago. And
Yeah.
just the amount of um, success, but also the good work that you've been able to accomplish and establish,
Mm.
especially with your foundation that you started with your wife,
Yeah.
who you've been married now for over 10 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. It is so fun. And I'll tell you, Tony, like we're one of those rare, I think it's rare from what I hear, couples that like to work together. So we do a lot of outreach in schools and with refugees overseas, different things that we get to do now. Music used to be very artful for me. I wanted to be like the next John Mayer or something.
Or Billy
And
Joel. Yeah.
yeah. And then and I got to live a lot of those dreams like I was talking about. But over the years, music has moved from being artful to being first and foremost very purposeful for me.
Sure.
And it's still artful, but now I rarely write a song unless I have a clear vision for how is this going to help people, or how could this give someone hope. And so it's just I've a lot of people still make art for art's sake, and that's really cool because even God is creative. That's why we're creative. We're created in God's image.
Oh yeah.
The creativity is a part of that, and so just art for art's sake is totally valid. But now I see that it just has a way of reaching sometimes where words alone cannot, and so I love to employ that artistic, uh, those artistic means in order to help people. It's really
Sure.
fun.
Well, and it's a selflessness, approach to writing and recording music. I'm very similar in that regard, where, with the first album that I put out, of course, and being 19 years old, my thought was, this is my real like attempt to like go out there, maybe share it with a label, get some reviews. It feels like it was more me centered. And, as time went on, I think we really begin to see the weight and importance that art has. So it becomes more enveloped into being, how can I share this with somebody else? Writing
Yeah.
songs about mental health or faith or
Hmm.
circumstances. And, we realize just how universally impactful that is for multiple cultures and multiple different situations with people. And I mean, you're
Mm.
doing that.
Yeah, well
You know?
said. And you are as well. And that's what I love about the fact that we've connected. It's like, music is it goes where words alone cannot go.
There you go.
And then secondly, I've noticed that, being blind, there's some things I don't see in my audiences. I don't see their skin color. I don't know what they're wearing. I don't really get those cues right off the bat. I just hear their heart first and foremost, and I think that's disarming for a lot of
I love
people.
that. Yeah.
And
I
so
love
it
that.
allows me, and it allows you to go places where not everyone can go, kind of to speak to the heart in a very direct way, and I love that.
Sure. Well, and I'm glad you brought up your blindness. That's something that we can connect on, and many of the listeners of the podcast can. And just encapsulating the idea that seeing their hearts. I love that phrase, and it's the cadence in the room when you play, or it's the emotions that can be expressed afterwards when a piece is complete, whether it's in a recording session or if it's in a performance, because you feel it, it's unspoken at the time. It doesn't have to be articulated by words in so many ways. And that's the power that melody has over, I think, the human spirit.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love
Well,
that.
and
Yep.
speaking of music, let's talk about this. The Songsight Mentoring Music Retreat. We had
Yes,
we had our first one last year.
we did.
The
Yep.
first inaugural, I can't say that word.
Inaugural song site
Inaugural.
music mentoring retreat. Yeah.
It's
It
a long
was,
title.
I know.
I love it though.
What a blessing, man, just to have you there. I mean, you really blew all of us away, I think, just your talent, your humility, your spirit, your vulnerability. And it was, just from me to you, like, it was a joy to come alongside you and start something that we can continue for years to come, and just
Oh yeah.
to be in your life, to make music with you, to hear what's on your heart and your music, and just journey with you in that. It was really fun. And I think, I I heard from nearly everyone, I think including you. You said you'd love to come back again.
Oh
and
yeah. That's
and
a for sure.
and I wasn't expecting that, I because you think of doing something like this, and you imagine a different crew every year, because obviously you want more people to have the same experience and to be able to walk in that too. But I would love that. I would love everyone to come back. And we haven't chosen, the committee hasn't set the date for the next one yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be this fall, or at the latest spring 2024. And I
Sure.
was going to say, if anyone is listening who's musically inclined and is visually impaired or blind, somewhere on that spectrum, love to talk to you about it. It's songsightretreat.com. And it was a blessing to have you there, Tony. I mean, I just think of all the songwriting, the singing, just sharing with
Oh
each
my
other,
goodness.
and then
Nonstop. Yeah.
recording at the end. And just like, I think the relationship part of it was really cool, just how that even allowed, us to connect and just open up and share things. And music does that.
Music really does do that, and I recall, just breaking down in tears and
Mm,
being put in this vulnerable position. And many who do know me, I'm very open and put my heart on my sleeve, but I don't generally go that quick to my vulnerability unless there's just this overwhelming welcomeness,
mm,
that can be there, because for a lot of people it's hard. And with the power of music, I mean, just to be brief about it, because I feel like we could do a whole episode just on the retreat itself.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just the amount of synchronicity and love put into this, it showed to every element and aspect of that program, because everyone from ages 17, 18 and upwards into their 60s was present, and there was no judgment. There was absolutely no discouragement from exploring one's musicality. And the outcome was a lifetime amount of memories in just one weekend, and
mm.
a beautiful song that came out of it, which I've listened to probably a couple hundred times.
Yeah, me too. Me
you
too.
know as a
Yeah,
good reminder, and that right there, that's our time capsule
yeah.
for these kinds of things. And just to echo what you said, any musicians that are listening to this who are blind and low vision from across the entirety of 50 states, and who knows where this will go later down the line, if you want to get involved with this program, Scott is just such an open and active listener, and would be more than happy to mentor you and get you involved in whichever way can be possible, even with sponsorships. And so where there's a will, there's a way.
Thanks, Tony. It's really
Yeah.
cool to hear you say that. I've just, it was amazing to see so many people volunteer, and so many, you touched on it, so many people give so that you guys could all be there. And it's just, it's really cool. The song that you're referring to, we should say too, is Let the Light In.
Yes, let the
And
light in.
it's on YouTube. Like, you can search song site Let the Light In. But it's I think that title even really encapsulates the spirit of what we were going for. It's like, we're all blind to various degrees, so it's a cool metaphor there, but it goes
Sure.
beyond. Like I've heard sighted people hear the song, and it's set to footage of the retreat so they can see what we were doing, little snapshots of it, and people have been in tears watching it, because there's so much joy on your guys' faces from this group who, some would look at us and say, oh, they don't have much, they're blind, and yet there was so much joy, there was so much enthusiasm, there was so much willingness to step out of the comfort zone a little bit and
Sure.
realize that, like, you too, and every single person at the retreat, you can be agents of change in your community. You can use music to give other people this same joy, this same hope. And it was just really cool you're exactly right. It's a time capsule. It's a really just momentary snapshot of what we were able to share that weekend.
Oh my goodness. And you said it so well, and like it's just so wild how much we were able to fit in 3 days of time.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's like we need to have a survey. Like, would you come for 4 days?
right. So it's like, this is, we don't know how well this is going to go.
Yeah, it was a lot to pack in, but it was really just immersed us all in the world of music and experimenting with new instruments, writing songs, singing for each other, recording. It was really cool, and I'm so excited for the next one. By the way,
I know.
If anyone wants to check into that, there's a little place on songsiteretreat.com where you can just email us, and we'll let you know when the next one is scheduled. And I'm pretty sure we'll be announcing it soon, in the next few months.
Soon, yes, very, very soon.
Famous last words, right?
Yeah,
very soon.
Very soon. Huge thanks to Brian and Christy, Dave, Kurt, and just everyone, just to say a few names who really just extended so much of their time and resources to make that possible weekend. So
it was really cool, especially just having so much hospitality from those guys. And what I love about Dave, so Dave Bechtel was the producer, one of the producers that was involved in the retreat, and he was very heavily involved in a number of ways, but he engineered Let the Light In and mixed it and produced it and all that. I got to touch a lot of parts of it as well, but he's an amazing guy from Nashville. He's produced many, many records. But what I love about Dave is he's about people. And so him, and you mentioned Kurt Heinecke, who's done a lot of film and TV and all that. These guys, they really love people. And so, everyone that I tried to get at the retreat, number one was a great mentor musically, but also just really loved relationship and being with people, and
absolutely,
that's really where the magic happens.
Oh yeah, it's quality over quantity, and it's putting people above money.
There you go.
100%. Well, we could sit here and talk about this all day. I feel like there's a few things that I do really, really want to get to with your story, and what's really going on right now, and Enduring Hope, your podcast and the TV series. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have this TV special, and it's just continuing to go. It's called Enduring Hope. It's actually called Christina and Scott MacIntyre Enduring Hope. Our producer said Christina's name should go first because it sounds expensive. And
it's good. So, it's good branding.
Yeah. And that's my wife, Christina. Love her so much. And it's this TV special is really about our journey through hardship and finding hope in the midst of that. And there's a ton of music on the TV special. There's we share the story, we share scripture, we kind of walk people through our journey of suffering personally, and how we've come out of that and come through that. And I would add how we've learned to be content in that, because Tony, some suffering doesn't go away in this lifetime. And so
sure,
I like to use the phrase redefining suffering. If you can somehow um redefine that as not always just a bad thing, but something to be endured and lived in well, while
Sure,
it's here,
absolutely.
then it really changes a lot. Like I used to want to avoid suffering, so I'd run the opposite direction. And then you grow up a little bit and you want to get past the suffering, and you just, if I can just get past this or get past that hard time, I know there's a brighter day on the other side. And
Sure.
sometimes that's true. But then in the third phase, I'm trying to learn to be content in the suffering while it's not past yet. Because I've been through a couple kidney transplants, and we share that in the TV special as well. But because it's incredible how some people have just selflessly stepped in and given me the gift of life. But that's that's something you don't always get in life. You don't always get the transplant, quote unquote, or the healed relationship or the easy solution to the problem. You don't always get your sight restored, being the
Right,
blind guy
absolutely.
on this side of eternity. And so but if you can learn to live well and live contentedly, then the world just opens up to you, because you're not focused on poor me anymore. You're focused on, like, man, this is an opportunity uh to be a light for the world. Because
Sure.
people kind of watch you. You might have experienced this. People listen to you when you're going through something.
Yeah, absolutely. People do care. People do, want to listen and do the best that they can to hear that out. And just amazing, very well put. There was a quote that I read. It says, "If we resist change, we resist growth."
Mm,
And I
yeah.
think change is a part of that suffering, because as we suffer, it's almost like a level up. You're in a
Yeah.
video game. The only way you can level up is by going through the boss or like the next step, so
Yeah,
you have,
exactly.
so you have to, in a lot of ways, we have to face that fear. And some may see this as, somewhat cliche, but I think it's a very, very true statement to you. Say, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
And the boss is a good example, because you're going to get hit with fire and lightning and acid rain and just,
But you must have played video games a lot as a kid.
Yeah, we can. Do you play video games now?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, good for you, man. I don't have the time anymore, but I used, and I'm not sure how good I'd be anymore, but yeah, I used to do it. And people hear that. Maybe it's a conversation for another time. How does a
Yeah.
blind guy play video games? But
we just find a way.
just we just find a way. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, but that's just so special. And tell us, where can we find Enduring Hope if somebody wants to watch it right now?
Well, if you listen to podcasts, you can get linked up with the weekly podcast. It's really short, by the way. It's 5 minutes a week, so it's little nuggets of encouragement that I hope are very digestible. And there's a link to the TV special in that. So anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can go to Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever, and in the description you can bring up the whole TV special. And tons more music there and everything. But yeah, and if you want to walk with us week by week, we're just trying to talk about fear, talk about anxiety, talk about uncertainty about the future. We talk about things like, why did Jesus have to die? Like, that's a big question that comes up, especially from some people who are struggling with their faith these days. And
Sure.
just all those questions, and we try to frame it in the framework of a hope that endures all things. You touched on this a minute ago when you said that change produces growth. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's even biblical. I mean, the Bible says this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory. So, and I won't go too far into that, but suffice it to say, God has some plan by which he's going to use the pain. If you trust him, he's going to use the pain you're going through. He's going to use the suffering he allows to come into your life to actually prepare your reward, to prepare an eternal weight of glory, the Bible says. And so at the very least, that suffering for those who trust Christ through it it's part of you being able to appreciate all he has in store for you, but it actually says it's preparing what he has in store for you. So it's like we wouldn't be able to enter in to the good stuff without enduring some of the bad stuff. And it's a very weird thing to think about. But I knew a pastor one time who said he doubts if you even grow at all apart from suffering. And that's probably a little controversial, because you can learn a lot when you're not suffering. Actually, it's a pretty good life when you're not suffering big time, but when you suffer, that's when you find out who you really are. And it's also where you have to stretch a little bit,
Yeah. And that reminds me of, so you know who Lecrae is, right?
Yeah.
Amazing musician. He's got a lyric in a song he did with Tori Kelly. And it says, "I'm trying to get better, not bitter, and I'm learning to switch those letters." And I think that I think is like, I get emotional thinking about it, and it's the real aspect of why we have to endure pain, is because it makes us better. But if we resist that pain, we get bitter, not better, because we're in a lot of ways, we resist God's plan, but we're also just resisting growth. Because I don't know. This is kind of my thing. Sometimes I look at things in both ways. I look at it from God's point of view, and then science, because science was created by God to help us understand the world.
Yeah, that's right.
And in science, I won't go too deep into this, but things naturally change. The law of matter says, things are nor created or destroyed. So what does that mean? That means things, they evolve, or they cycle through, and pain is a part of that cycle. And if we resist it, we're resisting ourselves. And it's just an idea.
That's deep, man. It's pain is inevitable. You can't live very long. You don't even have to read the Bible to know that life is painful, right?
It is.
And there, no one wants that. No one desires that. I wouldn't wish what I've been through on anyone. But sometimes I wonder, if we're running from pain, are we running from Jesus?
Right. Are we running
in
from
some
him?
senses? Because he calls us to follow him, and it's easy to follow him into the good stuff, or to want to, heaven and glory, and even blessings here on earth that we can have now. But do we want to follow him into pain, into suffering, into what he bore on our behalf, and he did that. It's like, some people find it hard to kind of wrap their mind around God's love, but it's not like he just, made a way to heaven and said, okay, you gotta grab it now. He came down in flesh and suffered as we suffer. There's nothing you experienced, if you're listening, that Jesus doesn't understand, that God doesn't understand, because he came here. He didn't have to be baptized. He was perfect. He honored his Father in every way on our behalf, because we can't. But he was baptized. He went through every step of the obedient life on our behalf. We talk about Jesus dying for our sins a lot, but he also lived for us. He didn't just die for us. This is something I never really got growing up, but every act of obedience, even some people say the faith that Jesus placed in his Father is the faith we should have, and he gives that to us. Even when we fall short in our faith, even when we ask questions, like, it's not bad to ask questions, but even when we doubt, the disciples doubted. They had moments of struggle, but God's grace is big enough to cover all of that if we can trust, if we can even be willing to be changed.
Yeah.
I had a pastor say that one time.
Willing to be willing to be changed.
Yeah, even if you can just take that first step and turn away from our own ways and toward God's ways and his plan, and trust him. He's gonna walk you through it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's such a loving God. And I mean, with coming down, right? And this is something that always keeps me close to the faith, is just knowing, okay, God, you know what this feels like. And you took the sacrifice, you put yourself in this position to understand, right? To have the humility and the empathy to understand what this feels like, which I think, makes it so much more. I'm not going to say the word easier, because it's not about being easy, but it makes it feasible, I think, for me as a believer, and I think for many others, to stay close, or to be willing to listen. Because commonly, when somebody says something, it's like, and they don't know what they're going through, it's like, well, why would we want to listen to that person?
Right.
But I think for God, it's that sacrifice, it's the pain, it's the misery, and the resurrection that says it.
Well, in Hebrews, we read that we do not have a high priest that is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses. Jesus has been tempted in every way that you are, Tony, and that I am. He's been betrayed by friends. All the physical pain aside, he's borne it all. He's dealt with every kind of rejection, every kind of temptation. So it really takes away any excuse of saying, like, God doesn't understand me. I mean, he created you, number one, so he understands you.
Yeah.
but it's that sympathy. It's that it's really for us knowing that, God entered in to our suffering and then made a way out of our suffering for us from that position. He didn't reach down and like pull us up to him. He came down, got under us, and lifted us up to where we need to be. It's a different type of thing, and you're right, it's much more relational. I mean, it's amazing to think about. I have a new song out called Believe Again.
I was just about to ask you about it. Hey,
you mentioned Lecrae. I didn't get Lecrae, but it's my first. I got a great rapper, and it's the first rap feature I've ever had in a song. So it's on Spotify. Scott MacIntyre. It's everywhere else music is streaming, but it's a cool one to listen to, because it deals with this idea that, like, it really boils down to, do you trust God or do you not?
Right.
You're gonna lean into what he's offering or away from it. I mean, you can do your research and figure out what you believe, but it makes me sad when people dismiss the Bible just because it's old. There are a lot of books that are old because we're 2,000 years into into AD here, but you got to really look at the history and the plausibility of it, because if what Jesus is saying is true, then there's a lot of weight to that, and we need to respond to that. And there's just been a lot of people who have walked away from their faith in recent days because they haven't taken the time to just kind of wrestle with these questions. And so the song Believe Again, it came from a very honest place. My friend Mr. S the Catechist, who does the rap, he was going through some real questioning with this as well, and so he was really able to write those verses from a place of personal experience, and he trusts in Jesus. but in the first verse, you'll hear we tried to like get a lot of the some of the meat of what we've seen other people wrestling with in there, but he had his own struggle through that. And then it was several months later, after he had kind of worked through some of that stuff, he came back and did verse 2, and it's almost like he was speaking to himself, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a really cool progression, and it's just a very honest song, and I hope it's helpful for people in some way.
And it's just amazing. I mean, congrats on the new collaboration as well. And
Thanks, man.
just trying new genres, trying new music, and stepping into a different environment, because every genre, it has its stigmas, or it might have its taboos, or it has its, just different feelings. For me, it's metal, right? I've always been a metal guy, and when people think of that, it's dark or angry, this or that, and rap has its own as well. So I'm sure, coming into a different collaboration, just to be able to shed that emotion and that faith in God, I mean, it helps kind of rewrite the narrative a little bit, and, can help people come closer regardless of, oh, this is this kind of music, I don't want to listen to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it
I hope
takes
so.
that
Yeah, right. If anyone can bridge the gap from rap to, like, I used to be a classical pianist, so
yeah.
I hope that maybe I can bring those worlds together a little bit. But I really like how this turned out. It was really fun to produce, and it's not, the rap that on the track, it's very intentional, it's very musical, it has a really nice flow to it. Like Mr. S the Cat, I guess, yeah, has a really, like, just he loves old school. We go way back, so we've been friends for a long time, but he loves that old school stuff, so you'll hear a little bit of that creeping in. But I think that helps to kind of keep it very organic. Some of the rap I hear nowadays, it's a little too, like, it's a little just too static and on the grid.
Sure.
And I tried to keep this a little bit off the grid, and as far as the timing of it, so it ebbs and flows, and it's just,
I like that. Yeah.
And honestly, there's rap has a certain angst to it that I think captures this, because this is a hard thing. Some people who grew up in the church, and they just did it because their family was doing it. I mean, it's hard for them to, number one, admit that they have some questions because people are watching them, right?
Right.
But number two, it's a very real thing, and I think you have to come to a point where your faith is your own, and it's real. It's not just because someone told you about it growing up, but the benefit is for those who put in the work, for those who stick with it, for those who really want to seek God. I mean, Tony, he's left an abundance of evidence that the Bible is reliable, that the Bible is true, that he loves us.
Absolutely.
And it can be hard being 2,000 years removed from the time of Christ, but remember that, like, even those that saw him resurrected, I mean, they doubted too. So it's not like, if we could have just been there with him, we would have believed, and we would all be, they had their own struggles. And in some cases, like, all the work that's been done over the last 2,000 years just gives us more confidence that
absolutely,
there's nothing that's ever debunked this. In fact, the more archaeology they keep doing, it keeps just backing up the Bible. So it's a good place, it's a safe place to be. But I would just add that Jesus is a safe place for your questions. Like, it's not wrong to come to him with our questions, and to to have that discussion, just trusting that he'll meet us there, and he's big enough to carry us through that.
Wow. Just, I mean, amazing. And, as we kind of come to a close here with the podcast today, I want to first thank everyone for subscribing and getting the word out for the show. And this is it. This is why we do the show. This is why we have this. And American Idol, Scott MacIntyre. Music is everywhere. Apple, Spotify. Please check out the TV special Enduring Hope. And of course, everything can be accessed on Scott's website, scottmcintyre.com. And, I feel like we could talk for hours just based on all of this. And I want to thank you again for your time, your friendship, and your mentorship for not only me, but for many others who almost feel as though they are voiceless. Because God can bring us the ability to, almost as a vessel, to be help people, guide them towards faith or guide them towards a better life, to encourage them to let the light in. There you go.
Yeah. Amen. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And, Let the Light In. I think we mentioned it earlier, but Let the Light In, the group song from Songsight. You can search, I think you just search YouTube for Songsight, Let the Light In.
Yep.
And that can be an encouragement. I mean, you sound amazing on that track, Tony.
Thank you. It was an honor to be next to you on the verse.
Well, yeah. And it was so fun to work with your voice and everyone's voice. I felt like I was working on like one of those American Idol group songs, except I think this is a lot better. We put a lot more time into this one. But
yes,
yeah, but it's, if you're listening, Let the Light In this year, 2023, man. It's, the song has certain application for us as individuals who are blind, but I've heard that people who have watched the video, cited and seen that and heard our voices at the same time just have been in tears over it. And it's going beyond the blind community. It's something that really, I think, just captures the heart of what we were doing and brings a lot of joy to people. So
amen to that. Well, before we go, Scott, do you have an album? I mean, is there anything kind of in the background that's super top secret that you can give us a snippet of,
Just follow on Spotify. I'm putting a lot of time into Spotify these days. So if anyone has Spotify, if you like to listen to music there, I'm always putting up new playlists now. Got a lot of music coming out every couple of weeks. So the next one drops February 24th.
There it is, February 24th.
But there's several albums in the works, and what's fun is these days I'm really branching out as far as genre and doing some different things. So the next few months we've got singles coming out, but a lot of cool stuff I'm working toward even into 2024. So
amazing.
Stay tuned.
Well, American Idol, Scott MacIntyre. Again, scottmcintyre.com. Please check out his content and, of course, Enduring Hope, the TV series or TV special rather, and songsiteretreat.com. Stay tuned for that, and please reach out to Scott and their team in regards of the retreat. I promise you, it is worth it. Speaking from experience, it is worth it.
It was so fun to have you there, Tony, and we gotta do this again. We'll make this a periodic conversation because I love it. We could talk about. There's so much more to say, and I would love it.
Yeah, thank you again. All right, guys. Scott, you have a wonderful rest of your day.
God bless you, man.
GreatNonprofits.org is a 501c3 nonprofit. Great Nonprofits helps people focus on making good giving decisions based on socially sourced feedback and reviews. Go to www.greatnonprofits.org and type in your zip code or city to find a charity or nonprofit near you that you can help.